Who remembers the Namco classic for PlayStation 1, Ridge Racer? Anyone? Anyone at all? No? Well, let me tell you this. It is the best arcade racing game. In fact, for me, it is the best racing game for the PlayStation 1. Yes, it's extremely similar to Ridge Racer. In fact, it's basically the same game. It doesn't even have half the amount of cars and tracks as Gran Turismo. But this high-octane classic arcade racer is one of the best, if not the best. And I'm going to try and prove it to you. I'm going to play and show you and discuss all of the pros and cons of Ridge Racer, from the excellent soundtrack to the janky controls and hitboxes. So with all that out the way, grab a cup of tea, get comfortable, relax. This is Ridge Racer, Namco's most underrated racing game.
Ridge Racer.
One thing I must say, the intro to this game always gave me chills. I know the graphics weren't the best, but something about the music maybe. But this 1996, nearly 30-year-old game still gives me chills. So we're in Grand Prix mode. It's probably the best way we can experience the game and its difficulty curve, as there is no way to higher or lower the difficulty setting. It's get good or give up. Although I am challenging myself to get first in all the races. As long as you finish it within the top 3, you'll be able to level up to the next class. There is also no multiplayer in this game and very few tracks. In fact, there are only 3 tracks to start out with. It's similar to Mario Kart in that way. A select number of tracks, but as you go up the classes, the racing speed increases, and so does the difficulty. But let's see some gameplay, and take a look at track 1.
Three, 2, 1, go!
I can't play in the third person view, so I always have to go to the first person view. You can probably see that the graphics look a bit better than they should, and that's because I'm running this through an emulator and I've increased the display size. If I didn't increase the display size, then you'd be able to see every single pixel. You have to be extremely careful on this game, because any bump off another car or off a wall, then you lose a lot of speed, which also means you lose a lot of time. When you're going around the corner, you have to make sure that you're not carrying too much speed, because you will bump off an outer wall. And you also have to try and not go into a skid. Although I'm probably sure a lot of you can handle and control when it goes into a drift or a skid, but I can't, so I have to make sure it's slow right down to be able to turn the corners, which in later levels means the AI will catch up to me in them moments. And you also come across the AI in very tight spaces. I'm sure the developer put the bump in there on purpose, but it's extremely frustrating, because as I've said, you lose a lot of speed and a lot of time. But that's track 1. It's not a hard track, it's a pretty easy track. In fact, all 3 tracks are based upon the same infrastructure, the same city. Just when you get to the tunnel at the top of the bridge, then you either go straight, left or right, which opens up the tracks in different ways without using a lot of memory and game space, which is probably clever for the devs, considering the PlayStation 1's lack of power compared to modern hardware. Okay, so let's get into track 2.
Racers, start your engines and let's get it on. Three, 2, 1, go! The race is on. Show them what you've got. 3 laps to go.
When I'm setting off, I'm trying to keep an eye on the revs on the right hand side. I'm still not sure what the correct or the optimal RPM is to get the best getaway. But if you're in the red, you end up wheel spinning. Again, it's very similar to track 1. Opens up the same. You get the same start, the same setup. On first person mode again, the FOV is very narrow, so you're not even sure where the left and the right hand side of your car is, so it's easy to bump. As we go up the bridge and through the tunnel, we turn right. On the last track we went straight over. Now we turn right and come into an uphill, where you need to ensure you don't lose any speed, because any speed lost on the entry will be detrimental as you climb up the hill. And the AI seem to be quicker up the hill no matter what class or how fast your car is. We come through the mountains, and this is the hardest corner in the game. You can see there I bumped several times, and no matter how much I practiced, I just cannot do that corner. There is a way through it where you drift, because the AI are extremely good. There's also a sneaky little jink to the left hand side, at the top of this hill, over the bridge. So you need to remember to turn slightly to the left, otherwise you bounce off the wall. There's another hard turn here, whereas if you don't get the braking point and get close to the wall, you can easily again bump. As we come to the end of the track, you realise it's the exact same as the first track. And one thing I've noticed on second gameplay is that the grandstands seem to be empty, but I remember them being full. And when we get to the higher classes, we'll have to compare and just see if the grandstands fill up. But that's track 2. Again, extremely similar to track 1, you just turn a different direction at the top of the bridge, which opens up a different route.
Racers, start your engines and let's get it on.
So this is track 3. Again, it starts the same as track 1 and 2, and you'll see me here just trying to get the revs in the right range. Got a little bit of wheel spin, but I feel like I got a better start. As I've said, I've just stated many times, it's basically the same track at the very beginning and the very end. When we get up this bridge and into this tunnel, at the back of the tunnel we'll turn left, and that's when the new track will unfold. See him flying past cars here, because class 1 is just super easy. You can usually get to like 4th by the end of lap 1. But again, I like this track. This is the better track. Like, it just seems to flow. I don't know if this is maybe one of my better run throughs. Again, it just seems to flow. Watching the replay back, it even looks good to watch back. Plenty of room around the outside. And this turn is my favourite turn. If you get it right, you can just hold it, just like that, full throttle. And this turn, again, it wants you to drift, but I can't drift, so I have to take it extremely slow. The car, you can see in the mirror at the top there, That's a thing to say. This game's got a mirror. F122 has only just got the mirror back for the first time in ever many years, so well done, Namco. And again, we come to the same end. I'm in third by the end of lap 1. It just shows how easy Class 1 is. That's basically all the tracks. There's one little track which I'll show you later on when we unlock it. But that's it. They're the tracks. And Class 1 was extremely easy.
Perfect. That trophy's yours.
But when we entered into Class 2, that's where things got a bit more difficult. Because to compete in Class 2, we're going to need a faster car, or we can upgrade our car. Which takes us to the next section. It's customization and upgrades of the car you own. So what can you do? Well, actually a lot more than you'd expect. There's simple paint options for the car, simple paint options for your team logo, the colour of your logo itself, your team name. But if you really wanted to, the game lets you go pixel by pixel to create your car logo from scratch. It's really quite good for 1996 standards. In fact, it's good for modern day standards. You can also change your car's tyres from drift tyres to F1 type grip tyres, which will never drift, which are the ones I chose. You can also upgrade your car so it's race ready for the next class. You can buy a new car, but you don't really get enough money yet, so we had to upgrade our car for Class 2. Class 1 was easy for anyone who can play the easiest of modern day racing games. I came first try on each track. Even with the janky controls, we flew through it. But now entering Class 2, as I mentioned earlier, if we don't upgrade or buy a new car, we won't win anything. And on my first attempt this was obvious. I could only muster up a measly second place.
Okay, it's the last stretch. Keep it up.
No matter how hard I tried, I could only get second. So I went and we upgraded the car. Again, as previously mentioned, this is when you realise new cars are expensive. Yes, you can drop down a class and redo some races and get the money, and save up and come back and then buy a new car that way. Or you can do the cheaper, more efficient option. Well, that's for Class 2. You can upgrade your car, and with doing that, Class 2 became a lot like Class 1, just the wins happen a little bit faster. And we fly on now to Class 3. I've also got to mention the commentator in this game. Them short clips and messages are ingrained in my brain. I know to myself I'm trying to stay neutral, but hearing them always brings a smile to my face. I always felt G'd up when she shouted things like, "Teach this sucker a lesson." And when she'd say, "Okay, final lap, keep it cool."
Okay, final lap.
I'd always find myself taking a breath and relaxing to keep my focus, especially later when the difficulty ramps up. Class 3 is where things started to happen. There's a new race, which we'll look at shortly. We also started racing at night. And I found myself stuck. Even with a fully upgraded car so I could race in Class 3, it was no good. I got stuck on track 2. I kept bumping against the wall on the hardest corner on the game. Even with smooth racing, I had to slow down too much, and first was just always out of reach.
Okay, it's the last stretch. Keep it up. Finish!
had a look at another car. I got one that's a little bit slower but better at turning, and this ended up being the car I kept until the end of the game. With this new car, I got first on my first attempt on track 2. I'd already completed track 1, so we just blasted track 3, and now it's time to talk about the new track, the oval. Now this new track, the oval track, is exactly what you'd expect. It's an oval, but the car we have isn't good enough. It's not fast enough. Even our first car, which is faster, isn't fast enough. We need to buy a car specifically made to do the oval tracks. And the fastest version of these are usually manual, but we can only afford the automatic one. But that was enough.
Racers, start your engines and let's get it on. 3, 2, 1, go! The race is on. Show 'em what you've got.
Racing on the oval track, you'd expect it to be easy, but because of the janky controls and due to the emulation input delay, if you hold on too much or turn too much, or not turn enough, it's very easy to bounce into the wall left or right. And it's hard to overtake the AI, because as stated previous in the video, the really tight field of view from the first person perspective doesn't let you know at all where your left and right side is, so you're constantly bouncing off the walls and off cars. With that said, it's a pretty straightforward track. Just turn left, 6 laps instead of 3, and try not to hit anything, and should easily come first.
Alright! You shattered that record! Okay, final lap. Keep it cool. You blew him away! Okay, it's the last race. Keep it up. Finish!
And that's basically the whole game. The whole game is this setup now. The first 3 tracks, and then an outer loop track. So you're probably thinking, you said it was the best game. It's just 4 tracks. Well, you would be right, but there's one thing I've not spoken about so far yet, and you've probably seen it. In fact, you haven't seen it, you will have heard it, and that's the music. Let's just do an experiment. For this experiment, I'm going to play the same 3 clips of this game, one with no music, one with alternate music, and one with the game music. I'm also going to show you a clip of Gran Turismo 2 with Ridge Racer's soundtrack over it, just to emphasise how great this soundtrack was. So let me know in the comments below which one was your favourite. Also, if you've made it this far into the video, I'd appreciate it if you'd like and subscribe. It really does go a long way. Now, back to the experiment.
Teach this sucker a lesson. Teach this sucker a lesson. Teach this sucker a lesson.
So what did you think? Games without the correct music just seem off to me. Whereas you put this music over a game in the same genre, it fits. That might just be nostalgia or my inner 5-year-old, but the music in this game boosts it to the top of any PlayStation 1 racing game. I can't say any other PlayStation game, especially PS2, because you have Need for Speed Underground 1 and 2, and GTA 3 and Vice City, but for sure, Rage Racer is the best one for the PlayStation 1. Now you're probably wondering, what happens when you finally complete the game? Do the grandstands fill up in the later races? See, you thought I forgot about that. Well, let's just jump into the final lap of the final race and see if there's a crowd.
Okay, final lap. Keep it cool. Okay, it's the last rep. Keep it up. Finish! Incredible! Nobody can catch you. You're the real Rage Racer.
So that's it. We are the Rage Racer. So before I tell you about New Game Plus, so to speak, let's just quickly run down the cons of the game. Although I've spruced up the graphics, the original graphics are extremely pixely. So if you do play it on the original hardware, it's not the best looking game. Oh, the controls. I'm so used to an analog stick. You don't know how lucky you are to have an analog stick. Using the D-pad to turn left and right is horrendous. I know people do it on games like Trackmania and stuff like that, but for this game, I don't know how people completed it when we were younger. And with the physics, you couldn't just tap left or right, you had to hold it ever so slightly, and if you held it too long, bang, straight into the wall. And the AI, well, I'm guessing it's a game feature, but you always catch up to the AI at the worst part of each track. And it's really hard to overtake, and if you bump off the wall or off them, you lose so much speed. And you may as well quit then, because it's going to be very difficult to get first. Now the pros. The gameplay is so smooth. Although the graphics are a bit glitchy and pop when you get pop-ins, it runs at 60 frames per second with no stutters and no delays. It even ran like this, I'm sure, on original PlayStation hardware. We also have the music, which is 10 out of 10. Although there's only 3 or 4 tracks, when you master them, you get that adrenaline rush and feel great. Again, a bit like Trackmania. So pick yourself up a copy of this game. It's really worth your time and effort. And now for the New Game Plus. It's basically you get to replay the same game, but the tracks are backwards. Thanks for joining me. I've been the Mumbling Brit, and you guys have been amazing.
3 laps to go. Take this jumper alive.